And we are back. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. We just had a load shedding schedule, a message saying that the power is going to go out from 7 to 9 o'clock. So, yeah, that's why it looks a bit dark in the room. So, yes, I have returned, and let us continue with A Fan with Too Much Time. Right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey there, everybody. This is A Fan with Too Much Time, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this week's episode. It came out a little bit later. I'm sorry about that. But before we jump into the Q&As, I actually wanted to talk about something, because as a topic I wanted to, sort of air out like I did in the older AFA And it basically comes from a few interactions I've had online with people concerning the nature of such science fiction works as Warhammer and Dune, which largely inspired it. Because I've sort of seen these weird topics kick up around it, and some of them have like these SJW undertones, sort of like Paul Atreides is. I think you guys have seen this article sort of kicked around way before I bring it up, but that Paul Atreides in the Dune series is like the ultimate mighty whitey, that being, a person of Caucasian descent that shows up at a bunch of brown people's house and knocks on the door and becomes their messiah. I think that the most prominent example that people like to bring up about this is The Last Samurai, which is supposed to be a movie about, historical figures who are like the last samurai, and they take their Western main character and put him all over that. This isn't really to address that in particular.
Look, I don't have an issue if it's fiction. It's fiction. I'm not really going to take that kind of thing serious. I don't really take it serious. If it is based on historical events, if the movie or the TV series is based on historical events, yes, then I am going to, find this a bit strange that, there is a white Caucasian male, in the story of something that deals with people who are not white and, they're not Caucasian males. It deals with the historical events surrounding a particular group of people, whether they're trying to free themselves from slavery or they are fighting against some sort of oppressive government or anything like that. If it's based on historical facts and this particular Caucasian male is not registered in that history, but they put him in the video, then yes, it is going to be weird. Definitely, it's going to be weird. But if it's fiction, I just don't see the issue. I don't see the issue. Guys, we have our own content on the African continent, in terms of our own heroes and heroines, fighting against the bad guys, if I can say that, and, trying to change their communities, trying to change their countries, trying to change, the destiny of many people. We have content like that. You can just go on Netflix and, just type out South African content. You'll see we have a lot of stories to tell, of people who look like us, fighting the good fight against evil people. And, you could say they are like our black knights in shining armor. So it's fiction. It's fiction, and I really don't see the issue. I just don't see it. In Asian countries, they have their own stories to tell with their own heroes and heroines and, evil people. In the Arabian countries, they also have their own stories to tell. In South America, they have their own stories to tell. And yeah, I don't hear other people from across the world saying that, oh, look, it's a white man saving people of a darker skin tone, and he's like the white knight, and I don't hear stuff like that. I think maybe this is an American centric Hollywood, situation. This is something that Americans have to deal with themselves. I can't impose myself into this thing just because, I'm a black person, and, in this movie, I'm seeing a white knight defending black people in a fictional story. I don't know how am I supposed to impose myself into something like that. It's just a story. So yeah, I just don't see the issue.
I mean, Paul Atreides is not a mighty whitey. I can understand why a person who is primed to look for those things may believe that upon first, inspection of the aesthetic of Dune. But anybody who believes that need only read into the novel with an earnestness, and they will very quickly see that Dune does not fall into this category. But another thing that I've been seeing that people this is just to point out the misconceptions that I see being had, and one of the most dangerous misconceptions I see being had, because honestly, these beliefs about it's pleasing the male audience, or it's too much for the white people, or some whatever, those things I don't often find have a very large impact unless there's a person's name attached to it. Like, people could get canceled over things like this, which I don't necessarily agree with, but it's very rare that we actually see people getting that we see these things when they're not guided by something like that actually doing much. Because frankly, what are you gonna do? Have Rune rewritten, dig up the dead author, and make him apologize? There ain't nothing you can do about it. Nor would I, be in favor of those things were they possible. But one of the more, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. The more insulting, almost, and much more present, that's what I should say, much more present misunderstanding that I see people having with Dune and with Warhammer 40K is that, one, that the fictional works themselves promote and propagate an idea of fascism, or of religious oligarchy, or theology, where it's where it encourages the people who enjoy the hobby to look for these things in real life, to support an emperor of one form or another.
No. No, it is fiction. Okay? If you are mentally and emotionally invested in this fictional story to the point where you want it to become reality, then I think you have a problem. I think you need to step back from Warhammer, and you think you need to step back from Dune, or from whatever fictional stories that you have invested yourself in. Step back from it, go walk outside, breathe in the fresh air, and walk. Don't drive. Walk, or cycle. Just go outside and just be around people. Be around reality. Get out of that fictional world. It's just a fictional story, fictional universe, entertainment. It's entertainment. So those people who are also saying that, this is something that's going to, entice people into wanting this fascist regime ruled by a god emperor, and, having this religious dogma and stuff like that, I think you guys are also just stirring up a pot that does not exist. It does not exist, This is, like I said before, this is just pure entertainment. That's what it is. It's pure entertainment. Yeah.
And to look for your messiah in the people who are ostensibly just fallible men, and certainly not anything resembling a true son of God, who wouldn't have the difficulties that you see Paul Atreides and the Emperor in 40K and other such figures. experiencing. So, I see a lot of people kind of be like, oh, well, I mean, if you're into that, doesn't that kind of mean that you're... And obviously, if you've been with my content, you know that I'm not in any way a supporter of that kind of ideology. And I just felt that a moment should be taken to explain it. And maybe less so with Warhammer 40K, because Warhammer 40K is very tongue-in-cheek. It shouldn't be very hard to see that it is that way. Dune, less so. Dune is a very thick piece of work. It's a brilliant piece of work, but it is hard for a lot of people to read through it unless they are already interested in the subject matter. And the subject matter is much less about action scenes and base entertainment, and more about a discussion of the philosophy of politics and what the government should do and what we should be wary of. And that's really one of the things I wanted to focus on here, because, you know, again, Warhammer is really tongue-in-cheek. So even when it's like, oh yeah, for the Emperor, only a person with a truly simplistic mindset would actually begin to think this is a good thing. You know, we tend to give Warhammer a pass, or the Imperium a pass, on a lot of the things that it does under the context of things are so bad that this is the only way things get done. And I mean, we all know that's not 100% the case, but we also give humans slack, you know. I mean, we see how bad we can be to each other under these relatively tame circumstances of our modern day existence. And we imagine, oh, well, if you throw literal demons constantly invading everything and aliens being super evil and eating people's brains and getting off to their torture, like, you throw all that into it and suddenly you're like, okay, yeah, I mean, you know, suddenly the Imperium makes a lot more sense. But as Gilliman is showing us, and as we could reason, a lot of the stuff is superfluous and unnecessary, and again, it's very tongue-in-cheek. It's not hard to see that it's not meant to be emulated, because it's not physically emulatable. Dune's different, but people forget that what Dune is really about, and if you read, especially if you read all of the books, at least written by the original author, the message that comes through is that, and he said this explicitly, that you shouldn't have an emperor, that mankind, when it's forced to have, when mankind puts its fate in the hands of single men, of personalities, basically, instead of people taking their own destinies and their own management into their own hands, at least largely. I mean, we need to live in a community, don't get me wrong. This is not like we don't live in a community. But the idea of following, not an ideal, that's what I should say. Communities built around ideals versus communities built around figureheads and people. Because, and by people I mean a person. Because a really great example of that in Dune, just at the start before the story even begins, is the Butlerian Jihad. The Butlerian Jihad in Dune is the ban on all thinking machines, and the Jihad itself is the actual army that went around at the time enforcing this so that all mankind would drop the use of sentient machines and even like calculators and stuff like that. Initially, it wasn't so extreme. Initially, the leader of the Jihad just wanted to outlaw all forms of technology that exist at the expense of human existence and human suffering. And that's good. We don't want machines that make things worse, and we don't want machines that take away what little we have in this extremely finite existence we experience. But she unfortunately dies. I think she gets hit by a mine or something. It's not even like in a direct battle, but she dies, and her followers go into a frenzy, and they martyr her, and it goes from what I had just said, like a pretty reasonable standard technology, to even calculators are outlawed, no thinking machines at all. And that doesn't mean that there's no technology in Dune, of course. You know, you have shield generators and all kinds of guns and transport and whatnot, but machines aren't allowed to think anymore. All of that has to be done by humans.
You know, as A.F.W.T.M.T is speaking about this, person in Dune who was initiating this jihad, it also reminds me of the Emperor. the emperor also had his own dreams of uniting all humanity under one banner, and he wanted humanity to be enlightened to some extent, without them knowing the existence of the warp. Yes, his plans also fell through because of the rebellions. Horus taking him out, and after he was imbued or entombed into the golden throne, half dead, half alive, his dream died with him, essentially, because after that, people took advantage of the situation. They started to use the emperor's personality, as a form of religion, something that the emperor did not want. He did not want to be worshipped as a god, but in the end, that's what happened. People took advantage of the power vacuums that were left behind, and they filled it up with the religion of the god emperor. And his dream of having humanity out of this darkness and quagmire failed, essentially. Humanity became stagnant, and a personality cult was created around the emperor. I'm also thinking about another fictional story. It's a game, Dragon Age Origins. I don't know if you guys know it, but in Dragon Age Origins, there is a personality cult, centered around a woman called Andraste. She was a freedom fighter for the people who were being oppressed by the world of magic, in particular the Tevinter Imperium, an empire that had a tyrannical power base of magisters who used their magic to rule over the whole world of Thedas. And Andraste was the freedom fighter who band together with a lot of people, to fight against this empire and to destroy it. But she was betrayed by the man that she loved. She was burnt to the stake. And after she died, her followers, her disciples, started to use her name for their own political gain, for their own, machinations, for their own survival. They started to use her name. They started to martyr her as well. And that personality cult was created. That personality cult evolved into Andraste being, this woman that's been, elevated by the Maker. The Maker is their god. And whatever these people said goes, because they were so close to this personality, this Andraste. And they used her name. They said some terrible things, and in the end, Andraste's dream of destroying this Tevinter Imperium failed. Her disciples and the people that she trusted did not complete that dream. The Tevinter Imperium survived, and her people, just radically changed how things would have ended up if she was still alive. The elves became enslaved by humanity once again, just like when they were enslaved by the Tevinter Imperium. Those with magic were, vilified. They were shown, they were put into terrible conditions. They were kept in towers where they would stay there for the rest of their lives, and stay away from the general public of Thedas. And now there was even a saying that said, magic exists to serve man and never rule over him. I don't know if Andraste said that. We don't know if Andraste said that, but we know for sure that her disciples, those that she trusted, started saying that. And after that, anyone and everyone who had magic potential were kept away in towers. They were killed if they resisted. Those that went into hiding, were called apostates, and they were also killed. So the dream that Andraste had was turned into something else, just like the Emperor, and just like this lady in Dune who started this jihad. And ultimately, this is all has to do with their personality cult kind of situation, where people started to believe so much in these individual people. They let go of their own agency. They gave all of their trust and their power to these particular people. And it created this personality cult. When that person is removed, there is a vacuum. And that vacuum has to be filled by something. And the people around them took advantage of that, and they filled up that vacuum. And they hijacked the dreams of those leaders. And yeah, it's a sad situation, really. Because we're supposed to be, or should I say, the people in those universes are supposed to be, figuring things out for themselves, not to be told by some sort of messiah or great leader how to do things. No. They're supposed to be figuring it out themselves. But anyways.
So what is the moral of that story? It's that if that jihad had been led more by the principles that woman had been trying to put forward as opposed to the woman herself, then her death wouldn't have had this catastrophic reversal of what she was trying to accomplish. Because
yes, I would also agree with the principles. The principles should have survived, should have passed down to the people, just like in the Warhammer 40K setting and in the Dragon Age origin settings. The principles that these leaders were pushing should have passed down to the people, but it didn't. It was kept in these personality cults. And once these people died, a vacuum was created. And many people, I should say, filled up those vacuums with their own ambitions. Yeah.
Ultimately, what she wanted to do was to prevent tragedies such as the ones that she had already suffered from repeating, and all she did was perpetuate one of the largest tragedies in human existence. And don't get me wrong, ultimately the Butlerian Jihad did a good thing, because unlike in Warhammer 40K, humans sort of do benefit from this ban of technology, because we begin to genetically enhance ourselves to the point of being able to just do everything ourselves. It makes mankind stronger genetically. It's just, we take a very hard way of getting there, and that's really the whole core message behind Dune. I mean, even when you read all the way up to God Emperor of Dune, where Dune has their own God Emperor, and the Dune God Emperor is not an evil man, per se. He is a tyrant, and he is extremely cruel and callous, but he also does truly love mankind, love people within mankind. It's just that his whole thing, the whole lesson that the God Emperor of Dune tries to teach, and the thing that he tries to impart onto mankind at the end of it when he finally dies and kicks the bucket, is stop having God Emperors. Stop making men your gods, and part of the reason why he made his regime the most oppressive and restrictive and entirely controlled regime in all existence was because he was supposed to be saying, several things. The Dune is a very multi-layered book, but one of the key things he was trying to say by doing that, the God Emperor, by doing all these horrible things for so many thousands of years onto mankind, was, it was basically stop doing this. You made the most powerful ultra being in existence to lead you. And what this being's ultimate lesson is stop making beings like this. Stop relying on beings like this. You know, like the only reason that I'm required to enforce this incredibly cruel regime onto you to save mankind in the future and to adhere to the golden path is because all of you won't do it yourselves. And you can, and you could. It's just harder for you, which means that I have to do it for you, and that means that you all have to suffer, basically. It's a pretty hardcore message, but like the whole point of the Empire living and existing for so many thousands of years is so that no one will ever forget the tyranny of the God Emperor, and no one will ever get another God Emperor again. I mean, that's a huge part of it, at the very least. Another part of it is to do with human evolution and the breeding program, and another part of it is literally repressing mankind so hardcore for so long that when the pressures are moved, mankind acts like a spring and goes out into the cosmos and spreads out and diversifies and stops being so apathetic and restrictive. And you know, that's my whole point, is just that the messages of these things, even 40K and especially Dune, though Dune is much harder to get through, is that you're not supposed to be tribalistic. That these things hurt. That even done in the best possible way, all that they try to do in the best possible way is get you to stop doing them, to get you to stop supporting these crazy methods of control and of absolute governance. There is no God Emperor. There is no single super powerful figure that's going to control us and dominate us for the better. And if they did control us and dominate us for the better, it would be to make us eventually do it ourselves. It's not a perpetual thing. We're not meant to exist in that state, and whenever we do, we subject ourselves to incredibly heinous and widespread suffering. So, to those who think that Warhammer 40K is supposed to be, or that Dune is supposed to be an open portal to this belief system that ultimately leads to fascism, and admittedly, some people may take it that way without actually absorbing the material all the way and be really big fans of these products without realizing that they are cautionary tales. You have to remember that there is unimaginable and unwarranted suffering in the Imperium, and that in Dune, the God Emperor's whole plan and the entire thing, if you're 100% rah for the God Emperor, I think he knew the best, realize that the best thing he was trying to do is get you to get rid of him, is to get you to stop needing him, is to get you to seize, you know, existence into yourselves and to begin doing basically what the Bene Gesserit were doing in the book, but not just the Bene Gesserit, but like the vast mass of mankind, so that diversity would win out, and you wouldn't need him to seize control and do it all so harshly. And of course, Dune is a philosophical book, so there's many, you know, there can be a huge philosophical debate on that. However, what can't be debated is simply this. The God Emperor's rule was extremely repressive, it created a lot of suffering, it stifled mankind, it created chaos after he left, and that in no way, shape, or form is a government that pursues the following of a single individual, a government that is in any way stable, sound, or going to last longer than the individual themselves lasts. And, you know, this may or may not be particularly relevant because of the times we live in, and I won't make a point on talking about that, but I will say this. If there is one thing that you can draw that is, like, in any way tribalistic or truly fascistic about these properties, is that they allow that experiencing them and having fun within them allows us to exercise these more destructive habits that are ingrained into our natures as men, as men and women, as humans, without actually enforcing them into the world or hurting or harming anybody by their practice.
I don't know if you guys play Grand Theft Auto. In Grand Theft Auto, that bubble, that fictional gaming bubble, in that place, you can kill people. You can kill pedestrians, you can kill police officers, you can crash your aeroplane into buildings, you can crash your cars into people, into public areas. You can do some of the most heinous acts, you know, but in that game, in that fictional world. Once you step out of it and you're in the real world, you can't be doing stuff like that. You know, you will be a criminal or a terrorist or you know, just someone who is horrible to do such terrible things. You know, but because this is a game, we are allowed to express those dark, you know, feelings and thoughts in our minds when, you know, playing this game. Just like with Warhammer 40K, just like with any of these other, you know, franchises with that are fictionally based. Yes, you can delve into the stories, you can enjoy the stories, but you should always realize that this is a fictional universe. It's not something that you can apply in the real world. And that's why I'm saying, if you feel as if you are so invested into this thing and you want it to be real, you need to step back from the fictional stories. You need to step back from Warhammer 40K or whatever else and start walking outside. You know, get some fresh air.
But anybody who partakes of these things should be pretty well aware of the fact that these are pure fictions, and that not only do we hope that they never exist, they should never exist. This should never happen. Like, Jesus Christ is the only one who should ever have control of mankind, and if he shows up, it'll be pretty obvious that it's him, because the guy will, like, literally be able to speak a word, and then reality conforms to him. He won't have to convince you, it'll just be done.
Funny.
Reality will conform. So it's not, you know, it won't be a debate if it ever comes down to it. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you're debating it, you're doing it wrong. You know, these fictions, these fantasies, they're not to enforce the idea of a single person taking control. They're cautionary tales. And that's my spiel. That's all that off my chest. And now that I've got that done, let me go ahead and hit up the Q&A so that we can get a little bit of that done as well. And let's go from the top to the bottom. Let's say Q&A. Will there be any Imperial Saints? You'll have
Saint Celestine. Wait, how many other saints are there in Warhammer 40K? I only know Saint Celestine.
have to wait and see. I'm not, like, if there are and if there aren't, I'm not, like, the information gets given away no matter how I answer that question. So whether I am or whether I aren't, you gotta wait to see that one. And that was Axel Gadstrid. I'm sorry, I do not Gadstedit. I don't know how to pronounce that. And anyway, in any case, now we'll go to XZ Moon. Q&A. I would be wrong. I could be wrong, but are the Calambians are from planet America or based on America? Yes, absolutely. Go ahead and read my my descriptions that I've left in the community section. I've left a whole lot of tertiary lore for anybody who's interested, especially in the Calambians recently.
I think the flag gave it away. You know, I also had a bit of a thought that maybe these guys are like American-styled people. I don't know. Just from the flag.
But yes, the Calambians are certainly based on America, on the United States, and on like popular media from the United States. So yes. Let me see here. Keep going down to the next one. Justin Holt. Q&A, kind of a goofy question, but I remember in the beginning when the Atlas of Steel was destroyed, you mentioned several megatons of ceramite being lost on top of the civilians. Seeing as ceramite is seemingly unique to the 40K universe, do you plan on mentioning that? Ceramite is actually not a material that you mine. Ceramite is a material that is manufactured. It's a ceramic, I believe. So while a lot of ceramite was lost, one thing is that it will be recovered because the Imperial fleet dominated that void space after defeating the Republic. So there's no reason they wouldn't recover it. And two, they will have the facilities on board the Arc Mechanicus ships that have come with them to produce. Oops, sorry about that. To produce more.
So basically, they'll just need the resources in the Star Wars galaxy to, start producing more ceramite materials. Okay.
And let me see here. Okay. So, let me see. Sorry about that. My phone is going off. Someone's trying to get in contact with me. They're gonna have to wait. I'm gonna get this done first. Q&A. Here we go. Sebeka. Is that how I think you say it? Sebeka. Q&A. Since we have already seen Ogrins, what are the chances that we'll see other abhumans in the future? Very high.
Like squawks?
Very, very high that you will see other abhumans in the future.
Or the kin of the Leagues of Votan?
Let's see here. Will we get any short stories focusing on Imperial settlers on Tatooine? Just wait and see. But, softly, I will say, softly currently, yes, there is a plan for that, absolutely. It should be very enjoyable as well. Let me see here. Lastly, since you have confirmed the existence of rogue traders, will we see any of them have some Xenos mercenary in their employment? Wait and see. Ooh, that's a good question, Sebeka. Nice. Alright, let's go on to the next one. Let's see here. Q&A from No. What would the Sith think of Chaos and the Chaos Gods, and how would they react to each god? Ooh, man, that is a juicy question, but I'm not sure that I can answer it without giving away certain things that may occur in the story, so
wait and see.
I have to say that you'll have to maybe wait and see. Can't promise I can tell you how the Sith in general would think of it, but you may very well get a few particular reactions from a few particular characters that you all may be looking forward to seeing react to that. In any case, let's go ahead and move it along to the next one. Alright, Eric Muller. Q&A. Are coming from Imperial Guard regiments, Zen, the 3 you already mentioned. It would be fun if the clones react to the Steel Legion, the Catch Jango Fighters, or the Morden Iron Guard, for example. That will be done much more in Season 2. Right now, it's sort of just a mishmash of clones getting thrown against a mishmash of regiments on this planet, and neither one is really holding home territory or fighting you'll see a lot more like regiment and clone reactions to each other when we get into Season 2. I'll just leave it at that. So let's move along. Richard Korn. Korn. For the Q&A, does the Crimson Razors emulate the Black Templars, include their Legion building? Not quite, but not because they've really chosen not to. It's more the case that the Crimson Razors have not crossed that bridge yet. They would cross it once they reached total chapter capacity, and then we're like, okay, do we keep recruiting? They're just short of that. They're not literally 1,000 Space Marines. They're just short of that. So let's see here. Oh, there's quite a few questions here. Do pre-existing characters have more plot armor than characters made for the story? Yes, they do. I can't just waste, an Obi-Wan or Anakin on stuff. That being said, I don't really apply that much plot armor to a lot of the Jedi and stuff. Like, for example, Ayla doesn't have plot armor. You guys may think she does because she survived that radical Inquisitor encounter, but she doesn't have plot armor. You'll notice that when she grabbed at her chest, that's where her communications pin was. So when she was squeezing her hand, even though she was frozen, what she had been doing from the very moment that he had paralyzed her was calling the clone commandos to come get her. And of course, the clone commandos were like, "Oh, hey, the general's calling us. Oh wow, she's really pinging us a lot."
I mean, I can just remember Shakti. She didn't have any plot armor. She fought a good fight. She fought a good fight with Rojulia, but it was just not enough. So, yeah.
I've never actually seen any other Jedi just sit there and ping us on the emergency channel over and over. Maybe we should get the lead out. And so, you know, they showed up thinking that she was in some pretty deep trouble because she's sitting there pressing that button over and over and over and not responding to the comm. So, my point is just that she doesn't actually have plot armor. Characters will just have events occur, and that doesn't necessarily require plot armor. I don't think I made her more powerful or less powerful, or made the clones do anything they don't do in canon. That was all pretty by the book. Jedi will, you know, I don't think that because pre-existing characters have plot armor sometimes, that it applies to everybody, as Shaak-Ti has also demonstrated. Let's see here. Nurgle is love. Nurgle is life. All praise the Plague Father with the
Yuck.
With the corpse of death. Ah, yes, Nurgle. For some reason, I just imagined Shrek Nurgle, and it's like the most horrifying thing I've ever imagined in my mind.
Shrek Nurgle?
So, moving along. How thoroughly are the tech priests studying droid tech? Any chance of the Imperium will start using droids in any capacity? Wait and see. 5. Any chance of pre-existing characters from 40K like A.F.W.T.M.T, Ibram Gaunt, or Gregor Eisenhorn showing up? I don't... You know, this is one of the biggest problems with me trying to use characters from the 40K universe. I don't really know the timeline of the 40K universe super well. I'm under the impression that Caiaphas Cain has retired, and that he may not even be alive by the point of what's happening in the current setting, where we have Gulliman returned, the Primarch returned, the Indominus Crusades wrapped up. Because I think that even the Indominus Crusade wrapping up and getting us to... Of course, that's not where we are right now, my bad. If I'm going to talk about this, it's just prior to the Indominus Crusade, just prior to it starting. But my point is that I don't know that any of those characters are actually still alive or active or not deceased at these points in time. If somebody can get back to me on that, let me know what Caiaphas Cain, Ibram Gaunt, and Gregor Eisenhorn are up to in this current time period. And if some of them are available, then it will become a possibility. I can promise you that I'll at least consider it. But so far as I know, I just don't know, and so I can't use them until I do. In any case, that's how you guys can help me out if you want to. Let me know. Will we see any Jedi defect to the Imperium? You'll have to wait and see, but... You know, you'll have to wait and see.
Like who? Who is going to defect? I would want to know about that. Like who? Who is willing to defect to the Imperium of Man? Yikes.
Let's see. How will the Republic react if they learn about virus bombs? You'll have to wait and see. What am I going to tell you? That virus...
I know for a fact that, you know, once they figure out that, you know, the Imperium of Man have these types of weapons of mass destruction, probably the Chancellor is going to say, hey guys, I have a plan. I have a blueprint for a super weapon that can act as a deterrent against the Imperium of Man using these virus bombs. And then he will just show them the Death Star and say that this is the weapon that will deter the Imperium of Man from using such weapons. If they use it, we will use ours. Yeah, he's probably going to say something like that.
Virus bombs aren't going to get used and the Republic isn't going to see it. You'll just have to wait and see when it happens. Alright, I'll do one more question because I think that I'm starting to get up there in the time. So... let's see here. Nurali Bolatev. There we go. Q&A. Where are the Scions? Ah, you want the Scions, huh? The Scions are doing things. You guys might notice that I haven't really come back to Quinlan Voss, Ram Koda, and the assault on the HQ yet. That is going on. The Scions may be dealing with that, or trying to. In any case, you know, armies of Jedi are what they are. Who is Grievous more loyal to, Dooku or Sidious? I'm going to say Dooku, because he has more face time with Dooku, and because he probably suspects Sidious of being some kind of Jedi, or I mean, he knows that Dooku was a former Jedi, but he just doesn't respect the Sith or the Jedi. That's not really how Grievous understands things. He understands that Sidious is Dooku's boss, so he is ostensibly also Grievous's boss. But if Grievous had been left to stew for like a few weeks after the death of Dooku, and you know, his death couldn't be obtained at that point, he may very well just go rogue and seize control of the Confederacy. Grievous, both of the different Grievouses have very different motivations outside of the Sith and the Jedi and their power plays and understanding of the Force. So it's hard to say whether or not he would have stayed loyal to Sidious even. But I think it's pretty safe to say that until Sidious shows up and whips his ass and shows him what's up, he's more loyal to Dooku. Mostly because Dooku has done this. So there you go. Let's see here. Actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it there before we get too far up there, because even me, I'm starting to get tired. You can hear me holding back my yawns. And that will go away. Fuck me. In any case, so, curious, a little curiosity. If you guys, you want to fuck, my brain is scrambled. You want to chime in on a bit of a question I have for you guys. Which one of the ongoing narratives so far between the different characters who are all separated, having their own stories, have you enjoyed so far, and which one are you most eager to get back to right at this moment? I'm not saying this is going to have an impact on how I write the story.
I'm looking forward to the Librarian and Obi-Wan Kenobi fight. All the other stories are good. All the other stories are very good. But also, yes, Anakin and the System of Silence. I need to also go back to that one. And there was one with a particular Psyker from the Imperium of Man who unlocked his abilities to the fullest on Axiom. Yeah, I also want to go back to that guy to see if he's okay. Wait, but didn't he die? I can't remember right now. I'll have to double check that episode. But yeah, I also want to go back to him and see what else has he unlocked. You know, if he's still alive. Yeah.
But I am saying that I am very, very curious to know. And again, if you guys have any feedback on the story that you want to give me, always feel free to give me back that feedback. If you have negative feedback, I am a little bit of a sensitive person, so phrase it respectfully. Try not to use idioms and phrases that are like equating my work to poop or garbage, even if you don't mean it meanly. Just know that it doesn't make an author feel well, even when you're trying not to make it purely contentious. But aside from that, please let me know what you think as far as that's concerned. And if nothing else, let me know which one of those you liked most and which one you're most eager to get back to. So until then, I'll see you guys next time.
Okay, guys, that's it with Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40K, episode 20. Oh, Death, Where Is Your Sting? Made by AFanWithTooMuchTime. Yes, the discussions here were interesting, very, very difficult, especially in the beginning with, his discussion on this white knight trope, situation, and, how people are perceiving those who enjoy Warhammer 40K or Dune or any other form of fictional stories, how they think people who enjoy this content want this content to become reality in the real world, or those who are, emotionally and mentally invested in this fictional stories, how they might actually be influenced by it, and, how they might want to have something like this in reality. And of course we also had the questions on the future, you know, appearances of different characters, saints, you know, saints from the Warhammer 40K, you know, who's gonna come here. Also other forms of human beings, maybe like the squats or the kin of the Leagues of Votan might come here too. I don't know other forms of humans in the Warhammer 40K, you know, universe. I'm not sure of the other forms of humans, but you know, A.F.W.T.M.T did say that he will see if he can add them in. And then also, you know, the question about will there be some sort of like a mini story of the Imperium of Man civilians and soldiers landing on Tatooine, like what kind of situation is going to occur there. That's something that's very important. Whether the Jedi are going to defect to the Imperium of Man, I'm asking myself, who's going to do that? Who? I need to know. If there's someone that's going to do that, that's definitely something that's going to be very interesting. And yeah, I can't wait. If that actually happens, it'll be the shock of my life, really, in the Star Wars versus Warhammer 40K setting. And yeah, many questions were good, and this discussion was also very interesting. And yeah, guys, I guess that's it. Remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as AFanWithTooMuchTime's YouTube channel, the links are in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And I will see you guys next week. Okay? Bye-bye.